The thing that's striking to me about what you're doing is that you have a very particular culture that you're bringing to this project. And I think, we've all been reading for years, like vulnerability is healing, vulnerability is empowering, connection is important. But when I go out into the world and say, go, be vulnerable, connect, that doesn't work, right? But like, there's some magic in what you're doing. The authenticity that you bring to this project, I think, is modeling something that's powerful for the men who participate. And I think it's beautiful and also a little bit worrying because I think this is a bigger problem than you can solve with I Love You, Bro, and just the group, the fantastic group that you've created. I mean, how do we take these ideas bigger when it does rely so much on, you really creating a special space?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I always say my advice for people, women, parents, is creating the right space is so much more powerful than saying the right thing ever. And so when we're talking about creating space for men, creating emotional space, when we create our spaces for these guys to come in and share, and then they use our groups as practice fields to start opening up. And then the idea would be that they take what they learned and apply it in their life with their relationships at home and with their kids. And then that space, hopefully, wouldn't it be, ideal for our homes to be a support group?
Yeah.
That certainly is the case for me. And to think that guys are out there who don't have that kind of emotional space or, in their relationships, that they can do that, it breaks my heart. So at the same time, as far as a community, what I know is working and what we're doing and creating these spaces. So it is my opinion that every community, if it could be multiple, should have access to a space for men that is dedicated. It is dedicated. That's what we do there, is share. And these spaces, again, when we're talking about the culture, we're just practicing here, bros. We're just practicing. And then guess what? This should hopefully help you share at home. And then when you have an army of these support groups that are consistently, weekly consistently, showing up with these guys and this new reprogramming is happening, then you have guys going home that are a little bit more comfortable. In fact, we have our data shows that we're at 75% of the men feel that their attendance and participation has helped their relationships at home.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so 75% is a great,
Yes.
I think we're at 68% saying that they have a better outlook on life because of their attendance. So when you're talking about what can we do as a community, I can't force vulnerability.
Right.
I can't do that. For women especially, they're in a tight spot when it comes to men's mental health. They're in a tight spot. We know women should be vulnerable because that's what they do, right? That's their programming. But for men, that's not part of their programming. This is not connecting. And so that reprogramming it needs to be so consistent and so persistent, but comfortably. And it has to come from a man. It has to come from a dude. Other guys showing vulnerability, me being vulnerable with these guys here, it gives them an unspoken permission to become vulnerable themselves. And it's not a permission that women can offer, that they have the power to offer. It's been, in my experience. And so when we have multiple spaces, free access to them for men to come with real guys, talk about real stuff in a non-clinical fashion, not necessarily organized and follow-up care and all this stuff. You get miracles happening. And, it's almost like a campfire, with the guys that we offer. So as a community, we absolutely do need spaces more regularly, well placed. Our goal has always been 20-minute drive. It needs to be less than that. That's just me. Okay, I'm not going to drive 20 minutes to get to a group, so I don't expect other guys. So that means we need to have groups within 20 minutes of each other. Whereas a lot of guys, they'll get to the front. They'll get there in 5 minutes, and then they'll look at the phone, make sure they got the address right, and then there's this come to Jesus moment where, am I going to do this super uncomfortable thing and be judged? I feel like I'm going to be judged going in. Or am I going to go be miserable for the rest of my life at home and keep doing what I've been doing? And so when I'm talking about prevention, intervention, when we're talking about putting money and creating policy for suicide, to help stop suicide, it needs to be in prevention. Crisis intervention is great, but we know our data shows that when they can come to a space and they can start opening up comfortably and become vulnerable and start that reprogramming process that's just so heavy. It's so heavy and it's difficult that immediately these guys are showing a whole new outlook and purpose in life when they can do it with other bros who are just like them. Yeah.
I believe it.
Joe, I want to ask about, to kind of crystallize on this idea of the services that are available that the state has been working on, and other states as well, and the national government, very aggressively in recent years. And you mentioned earlier the 988 crisis line. I think I was back working at Salt Lake County when some of those conversations were starting, and seeing this through some of the work the private sector has done. So if you kind of look at the last handful of years, what Utah has done, other states have done, private sector has done, and what the federal government has done, and you start to list out things like 988 or increasing funding for mental health resources in some capacity, more funding for therapists. There's kind of the typical things that if you're a policymaker, if you're a state legislator or somebody who works in the space, hearing this, those are sort of the normal go-tos of, well, more funding for these kinds of official structures and programs. And I don't think any of that's bad. I think all of that's probably incredibly good and helpful and needed. But my question to you is, do those things still kind of miss something important? This kind of gets to your question, Beth, about the culture aspect of what you do, Joe. That is sort of maybe a better way to ask is the existing mental health infrastructure that we have and that we've been building up as a state and a nation. Are some elements of it just not well calibrated to helping the men who struggle? Yeah,
absolutely. I'm finding that. And again, I'm just a dude, a guy from an overpass. But I lean into that I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm a fairly astute when it comes to, emotional, emotions of others, I should say. And so as a normal guy, I Love You Bro Project was built off just a normal guy who helped another guy who saw a need and then created kind of simple, almost like much, much more simple than a lot of these other existing programs out there, and it's working for men. And so when you talk about the current model, yeah, I absolutely, I don't feel it's living up to close to what we're spending. The Utah is, in fact, we're ahead of the curve in a lot of ways when it comes to mental health. But when it comes to men's mental health, I'll put on a clinic for these, more corporate nonprofit who've been in the game for so long, because it's totally different. The marketing, the strategy for men is totally different. And so I'm not just talking about, we like what they're doing. Let's try to duplicate it. Let's put it. We'll have a room at every, government building and this in the county and for every city at the post, whatever. But once there is a lot of value in there not being a government. There's a lot of distrust, especially with men, with government. And so the idea that it's just this, again, hard hat, lunch bucket, front lines feels it's just a guy, just an alcoholic who did this. If he can do it, then I can do it kind of feel. When you start attaching a government name or, a sponsorship, this is, the I Love You Bro Project, but now then we have all of these clinicians and other, that are kind of taking over the model of just simplicity.
Or even I Love You Bro by the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's why we don't have any groups in a church around here. We don't have them in any government building or office or school, nothing like that. It has to be, we have it in Spanish Fork, it's in a fella's barbershop basement, in West Jordan, it's in a real estate office. So to me, if I were to if I were to magnify or had the opportunity to make I Love You Bro statewide, nationwide, it would be using community partners like Fellas Barbershop. They're awesome. Like all these different businesses who want to get involved. If you want the community to start taking or having a say and start doing something, you have to get them freaking involved in this. And so I would still maintain our awesome, if I had a huge headquarters in Salt Lake City, for I Love You Bro, I would still want all of those community partners and have a group there and have them, they're the ones who are really helping us grow and getting the word out about I Love You Bro. While these guys are like, yeah, I'm just in the Fellas Barbershop. Yeah, I can open up here, I think, I'm not in a space where I take my kid to go to school or, things like that. So, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they're doing now. We're in a lot of crisis intervention. We should be treating the seed, with fertilizer, the type of, the watering, all of the stuff that would make a lawn beautiful needs to be way before the weeds start coming. And the weeds have been coming, and we're doing our best to treat them, and I get it. But we need to throw the old book out, bro. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know that the old whatever they've been doing is not working, especially for men. So,
Joe, we're about at time. I want to ask you as we wrap up, if you were to give advice, let's maybe I want to first ask for public policymakers, for folks who work on this issue either as a legislator, as part of a state government entity, or kind of the professionals who do care deeply about reducing suicide and helping to bolster mental health and recognize the need to do that for men. So first that group, and then I also want to ask you just advice for men in general who might be struggling or feel a little bit adrift. So first, advice for policymakers. If you could sit down and talk to the entire legislature, the governor, Congress, kind of whatever level you think of, what's the one essential thing you would tell them? What's the one big thing they need to know?
So many, bro. There's so many out there. But the one thing that I would say for specific legislators who've been, in the mental health arena, who've throw the book out, bro. Let's start from square one. We do have some great things that we're doing. I get that. But if we're talking about 80% of all suicides are men, so that means 80% of that funding should go to men's mental health to some extent. I mean, I'm not the smartest, but I think that math, it's not working out that way. The marketing should be different, but if I'm talking to a legislator face to face, we need to get back to just foundationally, we need connection. We need men need connection and purpose. We need to find ways to give them those things in a very judgment-free, shame-free space. How can we do that? How can we facilitate those opportunities? We can't, of course, force people to go. We're an organization. I Love You Bro Project is an organization of invitation. So I will invite until these guys are blue in the freaking face, and then they finally show up and they're like, "Thanks for not giving up on me." We need to have that mentality. And I'll be that guy. I'll be that annoying dude who's like, "Hey, bro, I missed you last night. Why don't you come out? Why don't you come out?" We need to have guys need to be able to know that there's someone looking out for them. They need to know that there's someone who's missing them or missing their presence and the value that they bring. And that's our groups. When one of the guys isn't there, it's not the same, And not to say we want them in a perpetually, have to lean on continuously on our groups. It's not ever about that. We have, our education with our workshops and our clinical stuff that we do with legitimate. We're pairing clinicians with, the stuff that we're doing. Being an evidence-based organization and using the data that we find, I mean, we're able to do all the stuff that I think has been successful while kind of reinventing, we have had to reinvent the wheel, bro. Like we have had to do it, It's round. We're finding that, we don't need to set it on fire, all the other stuff. What we're doing is working. And so when I'm talking to, these legislators, let's just get down. Let's get down to business. That Mulan song, cheesy, I know, but let's let's get down to business. This is what's working. Let's create spaces for guys. Let's make them super accessible. Let's make them free, and let's start inviting. And who better to do that than just beautifully broken dudes who are already out there, who are doing it with us. So that's what's worked for us, and I think it can work. Absolutely will work everywhere. So
the last thing, very briefly, I want to ask, going into September, obviously it's Suicide Prevention Month in September. And if you're speaking to any men out there who may feel like they're struggling in any capacity, or if you're speaking to anyone, men or women, who have people in their lives that they want to make sure have great mental and emotional health and mental fitness, any advice for folks in either of those categories?
Yeah, for the women, I'm with you. It can be so sad and frustrating to have men in your life who don't want to open up, or for some reason aren't opening up. It's a frustrating place to be. It's what I do now. It's the place I'm in a lot. But keep showing up for them. And I always tell, especially when it comes to women, the simple things that really help men it's never I love you, it's thank you. Thank you resonates more with men. Thank you for showing up for us. Thank you for all the hard work. My kid, when she gives a blessing on our food at home and she thanks, she's giving thanks for me and for the job that I have to make money. It resonates with me. And so I say for women, just keep reminding them of, we tie a lot to our work and what we do. We want to be good at what we do. So to have, reminders that, man, you're doing so awesome. I appreciate you showing up for us. It really resonates for men out there who are struggling. I feel you, bros. We're fighting for you, bros. Need you guys to fight too. Need you guys to keep showing up. You guys are always worth it. I don't care what kind of freaking job you got, or how much money you don't make, or how unattractive you think you are. Whatever the case, you are always freaking worth it. Keep showing up. We'll keep fighting for you guys. Our doors will always be open. In our groups, we recently had a guy come in who was suffering from suicide ideation, and he was so upset. And I looked around the room. We had about 12 guys, and I said, raise your hand if you've suffered from suicide ideation. And every single hand was raised. And that guy was able to see, not only, yes, I can hear, you are not alone. Reach out. That doesn't resonate with us. But when I can see, visually be in the presence and see 12 other dudes who are also suffering with something very similar that I am, that I don't want to live, and guess what? These guys have experienced that same feeling too. Then we're connecting at a level that we're not used to. It's uncomfortable and overwhelming. But show up for us, bros. Come be uncomfortable with us. I promise you, the best is yet to come. It really is. So come be uncomfortable with us, and just be around. We need you. So you keep fighting for yourself. You keep fighting for us, and we'll keep showing up for you guys. So, yeah.
Thanks for watching that clip of Defending Ideas. For the full conversation, click the link in the description, and make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your shows.